Hello there, you're watching and listening to another Scoutcast on www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and my name is Mark. Good evening.
My name is John T.
My name is Simon.
Good evening, John T, and good evening to Simon. Simon March, the FPL champion, welcome to the show and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
What a relief it must be to have got it signed and sealed. We're going to talk about the final day in some detail, but first of all, Simon, what time is it over there?
It's not even 5 o'clock in the morning at the moment.
So we've woken you up. You're in Singapore. Just to explain to those guys who didn't tune in to the last time you were on Scoutcast, which was about 10 weeks ago. We got you on, and when you were top, I think you had been top for a couple of weeks at that point. I think we woke you about 6 in the morning then. Now we've woken you at 4:30. John T, I feel bad, don't you?
I do, but I think if I won FPL and someone like us wanted to interview me, then I'd get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I think I'd be so excited. I don't know if I would have slept actually.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'd just be permanently awake.
Have you been drinking all the way through? Have you been partying for like 48 hours or?
I didn't sleep much last night. I've got to be honest. No, I mean, yeah. So goodness knows what I'm going to say. It could be, it could be great insights. Could be really, really surreal nonsense. I don't know. But,
pure delirium. The thing is, when you were on the first time, Simon, you have to be really careful what you said. Now it's fine. The shackles are off. You can say what you like within reason, obviously. Yeah, it's brilliant to have you on. And yeah, first of all, obviously, congratulations, John T. We're going to talk to Simon in detail. We've got a lot to get through, lots of questions, some fantastic rough with the smooth stories in the final day. First of all, how do the community get involved? They want to put
while they're watching on YouTube, there's a nice handy box in the side with rolling comments, so they can leave their comments there, or go on Twitter, FFScout. Or they can just type something into, go onto our website, fantasyfootballscouts.co.uk, and leave some comments there, and I'll be monitoring them throughout.
So I should say, obviously, people would have noticed there's something lacking from the Scoutcast this week. We have got Simon Marks, the champion, but we're lacking Granville, sadly. Granville couldn't be here, Simon, to congratulate you, but I know he does pass on his wishes.
Thank you. Yeah, he did on both the site and on Twitter as well, which is very nice of him. But it's quite disappointing. I've been on twice now. Granville wasn't on either time.
Oh, was he not on the first time?
No. I think he was on holiday again, or maybe he was ill.
I've never seen you and Granville in the same room at the same time. Interesting.
I'm wondering if Granville is actually right. And
yeah. I'll tell you where Granville is, right, and this is glamorous. And he's at Great Yarmouth. He's at a holiday park in Great Yarmouth, which is glamorous enough. But his partner just put on Facebook just now that they were sitting in the Variety Club in Great Yarmouth waiting for Shane Ward, who once won X Factor.
Nice.
So that's what he's doing, spending his evening watching an X Factor finalist from about 10 years ago, instead of talking to you, Simon. I don't know what's wrong with him. There you go.
Well, if we thought the final game of the season was exciting, then it's got nothing compared to Shane Ward.
Shane Ward, what a cracker. Also, we were going to have Tom Fenley on because we wanted to do this Miss World scenario where he passes the crown over to you. Tom Fenley, he's got a good excuse. He's travelling around Northern Europe for 2 months, so that's fair enough. Bless him. He did say, look, I'll try and get a signal while I'm in Moscow and see if I can get my iPad. I said, don't worry, Tom. No, I don't want to trouble you on it. But he wanted to pass on his congratulations to you, and I'm sure that we'll get you both on very soon. So enjoy your holiday, Tom, and enjoy your holiday, Granville, as well. Enjoy Shane Ward. Okay, John T, let's talk about the game week.
Right.
I know that, Simon, you had, by your standards, a pretty average game week. In fact, for the last few weeks, you've been kind of stuttering your way to the title. I mean, were you worried about it going into the final week, or did you think you had it in the bag?
Well, going into the final week, I mean, so the nearest competitor was on, I think, 34 points behind me, and then the others were on like 40-something, early 40s. Yeah. And so so I'm in Singapore, so I'm 7 hours ahead of the UK. So I had the entire day really to think about what was going on, what was going to happen, and obviously I got extremely nervous throughout that time. And so I was trying to rationalise it and trying to convince myself, well, you know, of what would have to happen. And you know, I figured out what would have to happen would be that I would have to have the absolute worst game week imaginable, and my competitors would have to have the most phenomenal game week you could imagine. And there are all sorts of, you know, very, very quick sort of peaks and troughs during the build up to it, with Hazard, you know, being named in the lineup, and then you know, Costa being out, and you know, all these things. But then, you know, you still keep the nightmare scenario in your head, and then that first half was just watching that nightmare scenario just play out right in front of you. You know, Walcott scoring after I think 4 minutes, and then scoring a first half hat trick. Costa coming on after 29 minutes and scoring a goal.
Getting the penalty. What was that about? Was that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I at Stamford Bridge, and just think that it's just the most absurd goings on. You know, of Drogba going off after 20. Apparently he was injured, but that wasn't clear at the time. I was like, what is this? This is just some sort of you know, ceremony. Not as a Chelsea fan, I have to say, you know, I do think Drogba deserves it, but you know, and then yeah, Costa to come on, but it didn't stop there. I mean, I think Schlupp got an assist.
Hello, Jeffrey. Yeah,
heading into half time. I mean, it wasn't even the momentum. It was like, you know, it was bigger than that. I really, you know, at half time, I've got to be honest. There was a point where I just sort of thought, I just can't watch the second half. I'm going to go off and do something else.
Well, just to explain, it was Ginswick who was catching you. Ginswick, who has been on the site since 2010, I think, a long time ago. He's been on Fantasy Football Scout. He crept into the top 10 only in game week 37, so we hadn't mentioned him on the Scoutcast before because he's not been in the top 10. He's not been near our top 5 in the Scout leagues, and then suddenly he crept in the week before last, then got in the top 10 game week 37. So he had an incredible couple of weeks to push on, and he went and he did buy Walcott. He was one of the two in. I think Stuart Greenacre bought Walcott as well, but he didn't captain him. He captained Costa. But you're right. I mean, Ginswick will come up later. We'll talk about what happened to him in detail later on in the Scoutcast. But at half time, I was looking at it like you were right. It was an avalanche going in his favour, and because all Brighton scored for him as well, didn't he? And it was just like, what is going on here?
But there must have been. Must have been such a strange game week for you, Simon, not only winning it, but because going into it, there was so many options of people scoring in our scout picks. Walcott was there. Then there was Lukaku, Benteke. I mean, even people, Charlie Adam, who did actually do really well. People were talking about, I'm going to get Charlie Adam in.
Yeah.
And this was how crazy it was going into it. And I think there must have been about 20 players to bring in. So for you, going into it, you're thinking, right, I've got this lead. Who's everyone else going to get near me? Who can I get? And I noticed you've got a Balassi in for Larson. That was your move, and it seemed really safe move. But I mean, Balassi as well. He could have scored 2 goals. Who knows?
Yeah.
Tough,
yeah. I mean, I was thinking about the players that I could have brought in, like all day, because I mean, all week I've been expecting the plan had been to bring Hazard back in, and even though I was sort of 90% sure that Hazard would play, it just seemed, you know, it didn't seem a sensible thing to do to bring him in, you know, given the doubts around him, and so I was looking at it, and I was looking at players like Milner and even Lampard and Adam. I looked at, almost every single player that I looked at scored more than the player that I chose. So the player that I chose, I was looking for, you know, the sort of formula of, okay, he's a home player, you know, he's got a good fixture, he's nailed on, and all those things are really important, I think, in the final game week, and you know, Balassi sort of eventually stood out for that. And the fact that my nearest competitor as well, Kev Gleave, had Balassi as well, I thought, well, actually, that's the clincher.
I see now. Yeah, I hadn't looked in that detail. Yes, that. Yeah. I mean, that is a classic blocking move. But yeah, it's because you've always had these 5 or 6 behind you, quite by some distance. But each week, one of them does something exciting. But what you didn't have was someone like Jinswick doing that every week. I mean, he had. We'll come to a fantastic final game week. But you didn't have anyone who was storming every single week. So yeah,
definitely.
Which is tricky to do. It's tricky to pull off.
No, I mean he did fantastically well. I think he got 3 weeks in the top 10K game week rank, which is I think possibly nobody's ever done that before. I think that's absolutely remarkable. It was like I say, half time. I was part of me was I'm just going to go off and do something else. I'm going to go to watch a movie or something. Like I'm going to pretend that fantasy football doesn't exist, and that lasted about maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I was back, refreshing, the website, and then slowly things started to move back in my favour. And I knew at half time that if everything stayed the same, that he had actually possibly beaten me. It would have been very, very close.
Well, you played a sensible game all season with no hits. We've spoken about this last time, but again, sensible players. When we spoke about which players you're thinking of getting in, you were mentioning people like Sigurdsson and those types of players. Very sensible picks, and in the end, that's what won it for you as well, because you captained Aguero, and it was a sensible pick because Aguero scored. He was very consistent.
So when that goal went in, Simon, that was the thing that obviously as soon as that went in, I knew you'd won it, and there was like, it was difficult for us because we had a lot of the time. In fact, when we look at it later, the top 6 are all people affiliated to Fantasy Football Scout. So effectively, we're always going to look like we're always going to have someone on the site who is going to win it towards the end. So it's very difficult. But obviously, you've been top since game week 23. So I kind of was rooting for you because I felt that you deserved to win it on the day because you've been top for so long. And I think when Aguero scored, there was this feeling of elation for me that was like, okay, Simon, it's done and dusted. And it was unfortunate for Jinswick because he'd done brilliantly on the day. But I kind of think it deserved. But for you, when that goal went in, was that like an Aguero moment from 3 seasons ago? Was it just some huge elation, or how did it work out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nobody, I think, in the world celebrated that Aguero goal like I did. It was absolutely huge. I mean, it was out of the seats shouting stuff, and it was embarrassing as well because I literally just the day before got new next door neighbours as well.
So you were at home then, okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So at home with some beers. What kind of company did you have? Were you on your own? Was your partner there, or?
Well, so there was a lot of talk about it, about whether we were going to have a party and go and watch the matches, or whether or not. And I'd been the sort of clincher was that I'd been the week before I'd been to Manila to watch the UFC, and so I missed all the games during that period, and for game week 37, and I was a nightmare to be around for that period. It was not fun, and so although people kindly offered and everything, and I was sort of keen for it, but at the same time it was just like I can really at this moment only concentrate on one thing, and that is
because it's funny you say that because I got my partner was out, and so I could have gone to the pub to watch the matches, and my next door neighbour said, "I'll come down the pub and watch the final day," and I left the house. I got about 100 yards down the road, and I thought, I can't do this. It's too tense. I don't think I can sit in a bar in company and enjoy it because I'll be just constantly looking at my phone, trying to work out. So I came back with the laptop, got the spreadsheet started, and just sat there and watched it unfold. So you got new neighbours. And so, did you make them aware that there was something going on, or did you just
well, goodness knows what they thought. They just moved into an apartment at about 11:30. Because this is the thing, the game's kicked off at 10 p.m. here.
Right.
So it's only and it's a Sunday evening, and there was no bank holiday here in Singapore the next day. So it was people offered, but it felt awkward to kind of try and make them come and watch me go through all this turmoil. And then 11:30. I mean, what they must have thought of this person next door is like, we just moved in here, and all we can hear is shouting and screaming and just nothing intelligible whatsoever. I mean, I absolutely of all the things, of all the moments throughout this fantasy football season, all the great moments, that was really the moment where I just absolutely lost it.
Right.
Like I said, I don't think anyone's ever celebrated that Aguero goal like I have.
Because the relief must have been ridiculous. Because you must have expected to have it to be quite tense, and perhaps you didn't expect it to go as badly as as that first 45 minutes. So I don't think you could have really prepared yourself for what was to come, would you? So it must have been such a roller coaster. Because I was texting people going, I can't believe what's happening here, and I was really worried about it, because I was like worried about what state you would be in, having got so close to win it and then losing it like in this way. And so that was a relief when Aguero scored that goal for you, because I felt like I almost felt how you must have felt on the other side of the world at that time would have been just extraordinary, and it turns out that was the case. So absolutely amazing. So you were on your own, or was your partner there? So it was just the two of you?
No, it's just me. Actually, my partner's was in the States, but still texting. It's become a sort of common theme actually. Of the last few months is that people don't even ask how I am anymore when I see them. It's sort of like, oh hi, how's your fantasy team doing?
So now you get your identity back. You become a real person again. So that's a relief in some way.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely the most interesting thing about me is that I've won fantasy football, and that's not a bad thing.
Well, the most interesting thing about me and Jonty is that we know the guy who won the fantasy football.
Well, that's what people were saying. People that I hadn't spoken to in a few years were sort of saying, "Oh, you're my claim to fame. You've got to win this."
It's a huge deal. There was about 3 seasons ago. We interviewed the guy who was number 1 at that time, still with 2 or 3 months to go, and it got picked up by the Australian media, and he was in the Australian newspaper. I had a big interview with him in that. He was asked to go on local radio and TV, and because he was beating the Pommies fantasy football. And when you say figures like, was it 3.5 million people play it? Someone wins something that 3.5 million people do, and it's to do with that's a huge deal once you put those figures out there. And it's nice to hear Mark to be in such illustrious company.
Yes, exactly. It's fantastic.
Well, for me too.
And we should talk about our game week as well. We're looking up with this move now, Jonty. So the big news for me is I just get a little bit of a smug face again. I did overturn Green Wimble at the top of the Contributors League. Sorry, Andrew. So I had a decent game week with 52 points, and Andrew put together a couple of miserable ones, got 37 points in the final day, and that was enough for me to knock him off the top. Your game week, Jonty, we're going to talk about that later on in Rough with the Smooth.
I've nominated myself for Rough.
So let's look at that now. We've got some stories from the community. We've got some lovely ones.
Well, let's go with some smooth weeks, and as you would imagine, Theo Walcott dominates a lot of these. So Wilshere knowledge, Cazorla to Walcott in brackets C. So nice captain there, Captain Walcott. So he salvaged the top 10,000 finish. There was some other ones here. So Melanista as well. He did Giroud to Lukaku, so not much there. So he could spend 4 points doing Hazard to Walcott. So Walcott there again. JK, I like this one. JK had 2 free transfers, and he'd been on the site a lot, saying, "Well, who should I bring in?" And it was, but he did push Milner. He's written stuff about Milner.
He was one you were plugging, weren't you?
And Milner came in with a bonus came in with an assist, and Sissoko was the other one. So Sissoko scored. Yeah, he jumped about 1,000 places there, which is great. So, I mean, you rattle through these ones. So, Cess, Özil to Walcott, captain as well. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, I didn't get Walcott in, and if I had, I wouldn't have captained him because you still weren't sure whether he would start. But we thought he might. We thought he was a good.
He was that all or nothing explosive differential, wasn't he? Which is why I was so surprised no one in the top 5 captained him. I think
you have to, and I know Jinswick was saying you have to make these bold moves in order to do that. So yeah, another one. Roy's Calderon, another regular poster. Giroud and Hazard out. Walcott and Costa in. I mean, this is great.
Well, it's a great story. He was drunk, wasn't he? Did you see this?
And he was drunk. Yeah, so he woke up. This is like the James Bond of fantasy football. So when I woke up, the tuxedo was in a crumpled heap on the floor. The bow tie was snapped in two. So maybe not James Bond with a clip-on bow tie.
No, maybe not.
And yeah, drunken transfers. There we go. And he woke up with Theo Walcott and Diego Costa.
So you probably couldn't remember if he'd actually dreamt those transfers or actually made them. But he got 8 green arrows in a row to win.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? AZ, another one of these kind of deadline stories. I mean, it's quite a long preamble about various things, but basically Vardy was key to him here. It meant that he got this 1 point Vardy goal and a bonus. He got that 1 point edge over his mini league rival. So that's always a good thing there. We can move on to some roughs here. So. I'll start with my own one. Get it out quickly.
Yeah, get out of the way, John T.
Yeah, get out of the way. This is I want to point out. This is the first season where, and going into the final game week, I had nothing to play for. Usually, this is my 7th season. Usually, I've got a mini league to win or cling on to. I've got rank, a milestone I want to achieve. Last year, I wanted to get in the top 1,000. I wanted to win the moderators and contributors. This year, I had my cash mini leagues with friends all sewn up, so they were comfortable. I couldn't win the moderators and contributors league. My rank was around just under 3,000, and I ended up finishing just under 4,000. So I couldn't really get into the top 1,000, and I kind of did that last. So I just took safe bets. They didn't work out. I put Hazard and Kane out, so that was 14 points out, and got Silva and Benteke in. So on another day that could have worked out really well.
Yeah, I mean the logic was there. It's just
the logic of it was just. I mean, now it seems crazy. Take a punt on the final game week, but I had nothing to take a punt for. So I just wanted to kind of maintain my rank, which was within that top 5,000. So it was my 4th top 5,000 finish in a row. So I'm happy with that. So yeah, not great.
You weren't the worst contributor scorer in the league.
No, I was going to say
Timbo. Incredible! What?
He got 13 because he took a hit. So he got 17 minus 4. So he got 13. It was his lowest game week score ever. He's been doing it for years, like all of us, and it's just. It was one of those weeks where you could do. It was quite a rare week where you had some mega scores from Stoke players, from some Arsenal players, from some Chelsea players, and it was getting the right ones, and it was so easy to miss points. It's so easy to end up. If I hadn't had Aguero, I'd have been in the same boat as him. I mean, I think he captained Benteke. But yeah, so I mean, you made these moves, but I don't mind. If it was another season where I'd missed out on a mini league, I'd have been pretty distraught about that, but yeah. I really didn't. But enough of me. Let's move on to some other people who've had.
Well, let's mention Jinswick's. I mean, because obviously he did bring in Walcott for the hit.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I think he's a smooth hit. I mean, when we do our Rough with the Smooth article, we have a Dimitar Berbatov Smooth Operator of the Week award, and I think it's someone who does something a bit dangerous, a bit cheeky, a bit risky. And he brought in Walcott for a hit, going for that number 1, and it almost worked out, and it never did. So he missed out, but he wasn't in the running a few weeks back.
But the thing is, what's ironic, Simon, is that he says that in the end of his comment about Ruffalo, so never ever trust Jose Mourinho. Yeah. Now, what he's referring to there is Mourinho said that Costa would play. So Ginswick captained Costa, thinking he'd start. You got to wonder, had Mourinho not said that, would he have captained Walcott? He probably would have done it. It would have been a lot closer. So, in a way, Simon, Jose helped you out there.
Yeah. I mean, he stopped me from bringing in Hazard, and but yeah, equally stopped Ginswick from captaining Walcott. Yeah. I mean, he has. I mean, it's been quite discussed on the side. Mourinho has been the ultimate troll this season. I mean, he's been the full-on David Moyes source of no information or disinformation. Worse. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like going into the last week, it was like, all right, I'm absolutely certain. Just read everything that he was saying about the infection and all of this. I was just 100% certain, because I've been a Chelsea fan for a long time, so I've had 10 years plus of listening to Jose Mourinho and reading between the lines, and just knowing that was the case. And yet it just seemed totally logical move to do is to move in Hazard when he's orange flagged.
I think it played into. It'd be interesting, say there were another 5 game weeks to go. It would have been interesting how it had panned out, because I think also a lot of people like me, when I saw Hazard was iffy to play, and the same reason I took Kane out as well, is because they hadn't actually been very good fantasy assets for the last few weeks, and there were better options, and I think that was the excuse people needed. Same with Harry Kane comes to score his only goal in 5 or 6 game weeks. That last game week, and I think that Hazard move. So I don't know. I mean, maybe some people got Walcott out. They got Hazard out. And it was their chance they could take to get Walcott in. And
I still wonder though, what did Mourinho have to gain from making it sound like Hazard was a doubt? Very odd. It's all very strange with him, isn't it?
Well, I think he probably was a doubt. He probably was thinking, I'm not sure, and I think Hazard was Hazard, Ivanovic and Terry are the ones that have been pestering him to play them. And he's, if he could assure him, he said that, I'm fine to play, then he would have said, look, go for it, because it was it's like a testimonial or something. They carted Drogba off on a kind of human throne, and there's a. It had that feel to it. So,
it was a bit odd, wasn't it? And this is the thing. This is the madness on which the FBL crown has to rely on the final day. This is what's crazy about it. You've got people like Simon in his flat in Singapore, everything depending on what's going on out on those pitches, and you've got events like that where it was just, it's just crazy. So it is torturous, isn't it, when that stuff's going on?
I mean, I've got some I've got some more roughs here, so let's see some of these ones out again. It's Van Gallelujah. I like this one. Right, so he gets Cazorla out, Hazard out, and Kane out. So that's 24 points. He gets in Balassi, Silva, Lukaku. That's
6.
6. No, 6 or about that. So
couldn't have gone much worse for him, could it?
Yeah, Albertini, Cazorla to Mata. He thought about Charlie Adam. If only. And so if he had have kept Cazorla, he would have been in the top 100. He worked out. He finished 2 points off. Forza, Cazorla, and Hazard to Toure. And for some reason, I thought in my head Cola Toure, but yes, Yaya Toure and Mata for a -8. It's part of a -8 points. So already down on that one. Holmes just describes it as massive fail. So Sanchez, Özil, Cazorla, Bertrand and Kane to Shelvey.
12-point hit.
12-point hit to Shelvey, Silva, Will.i.am even, and captained him. And Cahill and Lukaku for 12 points. 22
Why did
points.
he captain Willian? Well, that's Maverick. That is Maverick.
That's Maverick. He was going to play, and he has had some occasional good game weeks. So from a fantasy perspective, HVT final push for a top 1,000 finished. Transferred out Kane and Hazard for Silva and Benteke. So he matched my. So HVT had my luck that week.
And he benched McShane and played Skirtle. But who would have seen that? 6 goals past Skirtle, McShane clean sheet.
So, I mean, very similar to me. I played Skirtle as well. I thought he would concede. I had no idea. I went in with Jeff Cameron that week. I was more confident about Jeff Cameron than mine.
I've got to say, Simon, Paul McShane, I thought was going to be an unlikely hero for you. Were you looking at that?
Yeah.
Oh, Paul McShane is possibly my Cole Football Player of the Year, honestly, because I brought him in on the double game week simply because I had quite low transfer value, and so I needed a 3.9. I think I spent all my money on that wildcard team, and there was so much stuff on the site and everywhere just going, Hull are going to get absolutely humiliated. Both games could be minus points for both. The fact that he managed to get 2 clean sheets in the double game week was big enough. But the fact that he came off the bench and scored and brought in 6 points as a auto sub clean sheet, I mean that was just epic. And he's so much maligned as well.
Oh yeah, we were talking about him. I think it was Luke who said, well, we were mocking Paul McShane as an option before that double game week, and then I put a wry smile when I realised you'd got him in, and then he got you 2 clean sheets, and then there he was on your bench on the final day. And
he very nearly started as well. He was so close to starting because I was thinking, well, there's so few teams that have actually gone to Hull and have beaten them by a great margin, and I was the players that I was honestly scared of going into the last game week were Lukaku and Benteke.
Right.
And I hadn't actually thought a great deal about Walcott until people.
Had you not? Okay, right, okay.
No, not really, because I mean he was. I mean, if you look at it rationally, he was a player who was, hadn't played, was out of sharpness, was still a little bit coming back from injury, not necessarily a starter, but he was also up against a West Brom defence that had just had an incredible
this is it. Yeah.
And so I wasn't that sort of I wasn't thinking about Walcott until he started scoring goals, and I was like, okay, he's that was good. That was a good selection. That was a good punt, definitely.
But then But you had Koscielny on, because I had Koscielny as well, and you had him, didn't you? Is that right? You had Koscielny on the bench? No, who was it?
No, I didn't. No, Jinswick did.
Yeah, that's
right.
I
had Duff. Yeah, Duff was out. Yeah, so McShane, and so obviously the Man City the Man United West Hull game went on the longest, and there was actually a point, I think, around 77 minutes. Where McShane had been really injured and he was bleeding.
That's right. No, I saw that.
I said, please just take him off. Take him off. Give me the 6 points.
I was thinking exactly the same because it was challenged by Fellaini, wasn't it? It wasn't it Fellaini the second he got sent off for, and I was like, well, if McShane goes off now, this is it. Simon's got the 6 points, and if United score, it doesn't matter. There was just so many variables going on.
It was incredible. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, Morgan getting the assist in the second half was points to me, and then Austin scoring meant double clean sheet for Jinswick. Apologies to Jinswick. I'm sure he doesn't want a post-mortem of his final game. But that's what was going on, and so those things started to shift towards my favour. And then, like we say, the Aguero moment was just a full-on, Aguero moment.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary.
Where, I didn't sit down for about 2 or 3 minutes because that was, and it wasn't true because Costa could still have scored, and plenty of his players could still have scored. I mean, he had players that were, putting in. Working in teams that were scoring cricket scores, like Leicester, where he had Schlupp, and there was also some rumours about a Schmeichel assist.
Yeah,
as well.
that was at the end. Yeah.
and all of this, and so it was never like really certain, but kind of just I don't know, somewhere I don't know, like in my gut I felt right. Aguero scored, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's where I can celebrate.
Incredible stuff. So Scout Leagues, let's look at these, Jaunty. Let's go through it. Obviously, Simon, congratulations. You won the Scout League by 31 points. Of course, that was your major honour of the day, winning the Scout League. Then John Sumner, which is Ginswick, who we've been referring to, came second in the Scout League and second overall. Kev Gleave came third in the Scout League, and he came third overall. And then it was Marius Weissenberg on 2-4-2-7. He came fourth in the Scout League. He came sixth overall, I believe. And then Stuart Shingler came fifth in the Scout League, and he also finished in the top 10, I believe. No, just outside the top 10. Scout League winner Simon March. Also members winner. You won the Members League as well, Simon. Jack Wayne came second in that. And then over in Ultimate, Damien Lindell won the Scout League there. Came third overall. So congratulations, Damien, for winning the Scout League there, and maybe did he get a prize for finishing third? I'm not sure on that.
I don't know. I just wanted to mention while you're on the Ultimate, Green Windmill obviously lost out to you in the moderators, and he missed out to our resident expert Alex Bowers as well. But he had a good go at it. He overtook me. I finished third there, and he overtook me in second because he got in Walcott and captained him, which was I think it's worth a mention because that's a great.
I had Theo, didn't captain him, so Green Windmill had a good run at the end in Ultimate there. Over in the Sky Game, here's our other big winner, Jeff Pryor, won the Scout Sky League, and he also won the overall prize. So Jeff Pryor, 30 odd grand better off.
And he did well in the Sun Dream Team last year. He
came fifth overall last year, and he won the Scout League. So Jeff is someone who knows how to win money in fantasy football. We'll have Jeff on soon. I'll try and get him on over the summer. We've been talking to him, so another big win for Fantasy Football Scout there, winning the Sky Game, and I think we had 3 in the top 5 in the Sky Game. We did have the top 6 in the FBL were all affiliated to Fantasy
and the League of Leagues as well, and top league for 3rd year running, I believe. Yeah,
and the Members League came second, which is always good as well. Over in Play On, it was let's see, David Ballaway won the leaderboard. He won £1,000 there. Tom Fenley came third in that. Got a good score on Mondogoal. They had their World Championship, which came to conclusion on Sunday, which they had 30 grand to give away. The winner got 10 grand. Now in that, you could have more than one entry. If you won one of their qualifiers, you got an entry. Some guys, I think 3 guys had 10 teams, and a few more had 9 teams. So it looked like one of those guys was going to win the 10 grand. No, a guy called Alex Hayward won it. He only had 1 team, and he managed it. That was a team that cost him £1 way back when they had an offer on, when they had a £1 entry game.
Wow.
And he won 10 grand with that. So well done to Alex Hayward. I've got to say, Simon, when you hear about this money being bandied about, are you gonna start playing some money games next year? I mean, I know the FBL prize is excellent, but of course, with money in Mondogoal and Play On and Sky Game, are you tempted?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's a temptation definitely to give it a crack. I've had a go in years gone by, like the Sun Game and everything. But I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I mean, especially this season, FPL has just been, so much of. It feels like so much of my life has been taken up playing it. The idea of playing more than one of these games, I don't know. I think I can find myself up. I can find myself single very quickly. So I don't know. Possibly, I wouldn't rule it out, but we'll have to see.
Well, the guys from Mondogoal emailed me and said, "Can we get Simon March to take on our champion just 1 week next year to see who wins?" But I know my money's on. There. Okay, John T, we've got lots of community questions. Yes. Let's work through some of these. Some trackers there. Yeah,
well, we'll start off here. Yeah, I mean, Ryan asks, where to from here? So what are we going to do in the summer without FPL? I guess, Simon, now you're going to be probably watching a bit of football, hopefully.
You'll be coming over, won't you, Simon?
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully, yeah. I'll be back in the UK, so I finally get to watch football again, which will be nice. Yeah, I mean, I think there was that question. There was a question as to whether it was worth playing again after winning it, and I suppose, I mean, looking at it, it's, I mean, if I was gonna, if it was all about winning it, I would have given up 5 years ago, probably. I don't think, we probably played to win the game. Having won it, obviously it's absolutely amazing. Still think that the league and cup double is up for grabs. So maybe that'll be the focus for next season. Or back-to-back championships. You never know. But I mean, realistically, I know that this is the best it's ever likely to get, fantasy football-wise, for me. So I'm just grateful for having won what I've won. And what I would really like to do is, without sounding too fluffy, is to try and give a little bit more of that sort of experience that I've gained from it back to the community, because I was as you know, a long-time user of Fantasy Football Scout and a member for a long time, and a frequent poster, and part of that community. And then there was a period, and I kind of took a cue from Tom Fenley, in fact, on Going Dark, in the build-up, because I knew that people, I knew for definite that some people were looking, had bookmarked my profile and were looking at my team to see if there were clues to my transfers, and I resisted the temptation to create some disinformation around it. I think everyone should bring in De Jong and captain him. No, I mean, that's really the sort of focus for next season. I think what Tom Fenley did is it's a good example for it, in that he took what he experienced, and Spider-Man as well previously. They took what they learned and they put it out into the community, and you start to realise when you win it, when you've won it, just how big the community is. Coming from somebody that has been a big fantasy football fan for 5 or 6 years now, and it's always been that sort of slightly dirty secret of yours, that you take something out. I really like fantasy football, but don't tell anyone, right? Whereas now it's sort of like okay, actually, people really care about this. I mean, the biggest impact I think that I've noticed is since yesterday. Like, I'm not a massive Twitter user, or at least I haven't been today. But I went ahead and posted the league table on Twitter to about my 15 followers, most of whom are my friends, most of whom are just doing it to feel sorry for me. Honestly, within it just, the whole thing just went absolutely crazy. Within an hour, I had 200 followers on Facebook. My phone was just going absolutely crazy. It was just going nuts, like boom, 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 boom. You sort of realise at that point, actually, this reaches a lot of people. A lot of people care about this stuff.
You mentioned Spider Matt. Matt is every Friday on Twitter. He has a kind of fantasy football question and answer session. I'm here, former champion, ask away, and he gives advice for about an hour and a half every Friday through that, of anyone who wants to. And it's great, and it builds up that community. And he's got a big following there, and he's on our site as well, leaving comments and joining in. And you'll find people will automatically listen to your advice because you've won it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd love to do that. Absolutely. There's a sort of quite a funny side. The other reason, apart from the fact that people were looking at my team and I knew this, that people were looking at it, was that people were putting a disproportionate amount of emphasis on my advice, just purely from being number one. And at that time, I'd not quite come to terms with the fact that I'd got there through any other reason other than luck. So I was quite uncomfortable giving people suggestions. But when people contacted me through Twitter, I felt compelled to do it. And so there was a guy, Richard, who contacted me through Twitter about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said to me, "I'm thinking about bringing in Mane. What do you think about that?" And I said to him, "Yeah, Mane's all right, but I prefer Sigurdsson." And Mane goes on to Sigurdsson did all right, but Mane goes on to score 4 goals and 2 assists in 3 games. And I had to apologise. I had to go back to him and say, sorry.
Even champions get it wrong, Simon. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just shows that everybody's kind of got their opinions, and whatever you've got behind you, it's nice to sort of think, okay, I've won it, and I feel that I do have some experience and some tips to share, but then at the same time, you definitely don't want people taking everything that you say as gospel.
No, absolutely.
Because it's not good for them or for me. So
I've got another question here. Old School asks what you've done differently this year. So obviously you've been doing it and you've won it this year. There's some key elements to your game this year. No hits. That surprises a lot of people. But yeah, what was there one thing differently, or did it just all fit in place?
I think the key thing early on was that it became very apparent very quickly that price rises were different to last season, that they were rising a lot slower than they were before. And so I had traditionally wildcarded in game week 3 to build up that team value to go forward. And this time I realised, well, it's not actually it's not worth it. And so it meant that I was much more willing to wait until I was much more willing to accept price rises because they were so much smaller and manageable, and leave my transfers until the last minute. And you've got so much more information if you can leave it till the last minute, that it becomes a huge advantage, I think. And that was one of the really, really key things.
I think that's a good point about the game. The FPL game had changed the price rise. They were slower, and one of the key reasons as well was that there were so many budget players that were good value, like Kane and Austin and these strikers and midfielders like Mane as well. And there were so many of them keeping that going that there was no need to keep buying. And people, this was the first season where I didn't really care about the financial value of my team. And usually, I've been looking to get a team value of about 110 million by about January or February. And any less, I'll probably say forget getting a high rank. This year, it didn't matter because you could assemble a great team probably for less than 100 million, even by game week 38, because there was so much value there. But you recognised that early on. I didn't, and I don't think a lot. I didn't until kind of beyond Christmas when I looked at my team value and I thought, hang on a minute, I should have about 5 million more than this about this time. And yeah, so yeah, no, that's a good point. So yes, which piece of advice? Coutinho asks, which piece of advice would each of us give newbies looking to get into the elite ranks? So yeah, Mark, what would you give then? You've got a bit of advice.
I'm probably going Nick Simons, but I mean I think like hits are are one thing that I cut back on. So I guess that Simon's going to talk about those. So I would say that banking transfers, I know that's another thing that Simon does a lot. I think that worked out quite effectively for me. I only did it about 4 or 5 times, but I think the beauty of banking a transfer is, and this is something that Simon said on the previous episode, that when you've got 2 transfers, you can do so much more with that. And I went one further. I wrote a preamble about this a few weeks ago, and this is the key. The key to my end of the season was that point hit I took in game week 36, I think it was, where I got Silva in, I got Sanchez in, and I got Vlaar in for a 4-point hit. So what I'd done, I'd banked a transfer, and so I could make 3 transfers at the cost of 4 points. Now, I don't normally take hits. I've taken 3 all season, but for some reason that hit seemed more comfortable because I could make 3 transfers. And why that's better, I think, is because you've got 3 opportunities of getting that 4 points back. And as it was, Silva got me 16 points and I was in profit. If you take a hit with 1 transfer, obviously you're going to feel more cautious because you think, well, that player's got to make those 4 points up and get profit. Even with 2 transfers, it's the same kind of thing. But when you're making 3, it's much easier to go, one of those 3 is going to get me those 4 points back and I'm going to get profit. So for me, really look at banking transfers. Only make transfers when you really need to, and if you can bank it, try and bank it because it gives you so many more options a week after, especially with the hit as well.
I think my one would be, this is from the point of view of someone who hasn't been in the top 100 or won it, but is regularly in the top 5,000, and that's really simple. Is take risks with the cheap players and go for sensible, boring, consistent players who are the expensive ones. So this season, Hazard, Aguero, those types of players, Terry, Ivanovic, these are the players you don't want to take risks on, just get them in. And then maybe 1 or 2 start taking some risks. Maybe they won't play out, maybe they will. But you will already have the highly owned, consistent players. So your rank is never really going to drop too far. And that's a good way of getting into that kind of top 10,000, top 5,000. Moving on from there, you need to start doing what you said, banking transfers, being patient. And I mean, for Simon, what would your kind of advice be if someone was thinking of playing it, never played it, and wants to get a high rank?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of those. I think your initial team selection is pretty vital. I think there's a temptation to try and be a little bit too clever and get in the players that nobody else is going to think of, and who are going to be big throughout the season, like the Adams and the Sinclairs, etc. from teams gone by. But typically, Mishu is the exception, but everyone remembers Mishu. But the reality is that Adam didn't score well to begin with. Sinclair didn't score well to begin with. Brunt didn't score well to begin with. All these players ended up being really, really key players. I think that the key thing for an initial selection is to retain flexibility and not to paint yourself into or transfer yourself into a corner in a way, because. And the same thing goes for wildcards as well. So when I set up, I think there was a reasonable split throughout defence, midfield, and forwards. And defence, there was a little bit of a bias towards midfields and forwards. But even in defence, there was players that I could move, existing players that I'd chosen out for other players quite easily. Whereas if you go too Uber, go too cheap, then that becomes impossible. So that was a major thing. It was really like setting your team up to begin with for the next 3 to 6 game weeks, not setting them up for the rest of the season, which is what you feel when you look at all the stats from previous seasons. You'll look at it and you'll say that James Vardy had superb stats, and Morgan and all these players had amazing stats. But chances, reality is that for the first half of the season, they really didn't.
That's a good one. often when I get in conversations with people who are new to the game on Fantasy Football Scout, and one of the key kind of problems that some new players have is that they do get a team that, as you said, that they think is being set up for the season. And so I might recommend a player, because I've looked at the first 6 game weeks. I might say, I don't know, say for the sake of argument, Everton have got a great run, great opening 6 game weeks. I would say I'm going to get Romelu Lukaku, and I'm not going to get Costa, who, sake of argument's got a poor first 6 game weeks. So Lukaku, and then someone said, "You seriously think Lukaku's going to score more than Costa over the season?" No, but looking at the fixtures, he's got a good chance doing it for 6 weeks, and then I'm going to get rid of him. And it's that fear of I think a lot of new players get. They say, "Well, I've got so and so in, Costa in, and he's my player, and I don't want to get rid of him." And you just look at the blocks of fixtures, and as you said, you look at it 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and it's something we do on Fantasy Football Scout with the watch list and all the other functions on there. They're all geared towards that short term, and then moving players with the fixtures and form and flexibility. But yeah, it's good you raised that, because that is probably one of the most common mistakes people make is to think they're selecting a team for the season.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in pre-season, they go, I want to look at rotation, so I want to get my 4 defenders who rotate perfectly over the season. And they look at it for 1 to 25 game weeks, and go, oh yeah, from 1 to 25, these 4 rotate. You think, well, you're going to change your back 4 in somewhere between game week 1 and 25, aren't you? So you get trapped into thinking this long-term planning thing. And it's like that Tom Fenley said, always keep your team flexible, always be able to move money around easily and make changes in 1 or 2 transfers, not get locked in.
I mean, Leicester, the best example of that this season, investment in a Leicester attacker and a Leicester defender. Who would have said that game week 1? Who would have said that game week 20? But come game week 35, 34, people are fighting over getting Ujoa and Morgan in, and you couldn't predict that. But speaking of the kind of things on the Fantasy Football Scout site, it's a question from Simon here from Giggs Bosun. You're a member of the website, so that gives you access to a whole bunch of stats and gadgets and things. But what are the kind of tools that you use there? What are the kind of key tools for you to be helpful to other members?
So I think, the first thing that I would say is that the community itself is by far the best tool for defining or determining transfer success. It's also the worst, right? So the ability to sort of differentiate between good advice and bad advice, and actually, the longer that you spend on the site, you start to sort of see the difference between people saying things because they really believe them, and saying things because it's kind of like a confirmation bias, or like some sort of something they've done that they want to happen. And it was the same with me on Sunday when I transferred in Balassi. I was going through the site looking for people, and all I can see is people who transferred Balassi. That's probably about maybe 1 in every 100 posts. But in my mind, it was like, oh, everyone's getting Balassi, so it's a great thing. It's just a mind trick that your mind plays on you. I think that the season ticker is amazing. Rate My Team is fantastic for if not for I think the creator he admits this is not it's supposed to be directional more than anything else, but it's great for making for adjudicating the argument that you have in your head, I suppose. I think the captain's poll I think is great because it's not always correct, but it does give you a sense of, okay, this is probably what the masses are going to do, and that's very, very important, especially when you're sort of midway through the through the league, and when you get to the top, it becomes extremely important.
So one of the things that is different about you and Tom is because obviously you were both members. Tom was a member last year, but Tom watched a lot of football, so he could obviously translate the tools and the stats to what he was watching week in week. Because he said the secret to him winning was he watched more football than ever that season. But you didn't watch any. You hardly watched any at all. So did you use? I mean, were you using stats to back up your thinking at all? I mean, what were you basing your decisions on? Purely what the community were talking about, what Rate My Team said, and fixture difficulty, or what was it? What was guiding you?
So all those things definitely had an impact. A lot of it was just belief in certain players, and this I think there's a few things, and I think I'm going to write an article for you guys, but and I'll try and elaborate on this a bit more. But there's a few things that I think that really stood out, and one of them was having patience with players that were central to good teams, and by that I mean players like Silva and Aguero and even Eriksen at certain points. And the funny thing about these players is that I've got no problem with accepting a sort of 4 or 5 week run of Silva not performing, because I know that he's a class player and I know that he's playing in a great team that's going to score a lot of goals. And so it's only a matter of time until he becomes involved in it again. And people can talk about different formations and things like that, but the reality is that this is a player. And the same with Mata, Hazard, all these players. They're eventually going to shine through. And the interesting thing about it is that if you save that transfer and you keep them in the team, maybe they'll score 2 points for a couple of weeks. Same with Sanchez, same with everybody, with Hazard, Aguero, all the big players. But people transfer them out too quickly because they see somebody else that catches their eye. They see a Benteke or a Lukaku or whatever. And then it takes them an extra transfer, maybe 2 transfers to bring them back in. And during that period, you've got a differential, and you've got a differential in a team that is an absolutely stellar team. And so that's the thing. I mean, it's not always the case. Being too patient is also detrimental. And last season, I think was was definitely a case of more so people being extremely patient with players like Mishu and things like that. But this season, just having that patience with the players like Eriksen and Silva really made the difference. And it meant that I had 2 extra transfers to do with whatever I wanted to, and it meant that I was always on the front foot. And that in the run-in became absolutely crucial to be able to have the momentum under your own control.
We've got another poster. Nick of Oz asked something which is on the same theme of what each of us has learnt from this season. And I'm guessing what both of you have said, one of the things that both of you have learned is to use the transfers better. Is to save that transfer and then to be able to either take a hit and take 3 or take 2. I mean, would that be the case for you, Mark, especially? Would that be something you've learned about the transfers this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Simon says about keeping the faith, a lot of the time Granville always mocked me about this, about keeping faith too long with players. And I did it for a while with Costa for too much, perhaps, but in the end, he paid me back, I think, and I think that is a lesson. I think this season has played into my hand somewhat, because I think I am a fantasy football manager who does that naturally. I'll put my stock in one player, and then I'll rely on him to deliver. And often, they have done. I mean, Ivanovic I've had from the very start. I was convinced that he was the best Chelsea defender, and Terry did, in the end, catch up and run him close. Hazard, a lot of people were talking about Fabregas at the start of the season, and Fabregas would outscore Hazard up until Christmas. I always felt Hazard would outscore him in the end, and he did. So I think that, for me, it is like Simon says, you just stick with these pass acts and they'll come through in the end. And then, yeah, the saving of transfers, I'm going to do it more and more. Next year, I'll be banking transfers more if I can.
I often find with each season something's different. The season before, getting big strikers, money really mattered. Suarez, Sturridge, Aguero, front three. What a front three that would have been. That this season you've got the budget players. So I think the thing I've learned is don't look at the price, look at the player. How many people didn't look at Kane because he was 5 million, 5.5 million, and then he starts behaving like a 10 million striker, 11 million even. How many people kept their faith, the captaincy each week? Oh, I'm going to captain Sanchez, Aguero. You're looking at your 10 million players. We should have, fantasy players should have been looking at Kane over Christmas, should have been looking at all these. Charlie Austin should have been captain far more. So there's a lot of players like me who are so used to playing the big names and captaining the big names. I think with Hazard and Aguero, they were an exception this year because they were consistent throughout. I think they're always a good captaincy option, no matter what the fixture. But yeah, that's the thing I've learned. I'm going to start looking. So I'm going to be looking more at the cheaper players. Which ones? I'm not going to get a lot in, but I will certainly, if they've got the form, if they're starting putting the goals in, like a Charlie Austin, and they're central to a team, then I'm not going to be so swayed by a price tag. So I think that'll be my lesson. Simon,
well, the thing I guess that we're not talking about is the defence and so I mean the obvious players that you needed to get in were Aguero, Hazard, and Sanchez and Silva. But actually, throughout the season, there was an enormous amount of points from cheap defenders, sort of early to mid-season. It's hard to remember this looking at how they are now. But
Trippier at Burnley was a good example, one that Granville went for, and he ended up doing okay. The West Ham defenders as well, they were great.
Yeah. I mean, believe it or not, between I think sort of game week 10 and 14 or something, Newcastle got 3 clean sheets.
Yeah.
To later on, Sunderland did as well. West Brom did as well. And it was I think the slight change in the bonus apparition, but was seen last season, but this season something you could actually play with and sort of say, okay, investing in defence is not necessarily the strategy, but actually having players like West Brom, Newcastle, Southampton, that will have that are going to have a solid defence and deliver good clean sheets consistently throughout. That was really the difference. I mean, when I look back through my team, I was trying to pick out the things that I chose, and there were maybe 1 or 2 things that I selected that other people didn't. But the reality was that it was all in defence. All the points were coming in defence. It was just this consistency of sort of 6, 8 points from low-cost defenders, it hasn't changed the game at all because it's still a case of find that low-cost defender. But know that if they get a clean sheet, then it's probably worth 8 points to you. Whereas seasons gone by, that was not the case.
Yeah, I mean I set out at the start of the season to get Ivanovic in. And in the end, obviously Bertrand was the defender I had alongside him a lot of times. So I went for 2 really reliable ones, and then that allowed me to rotate the 3 cheaper ones, and then try and hit the cheaper defender on form. And I think that is a decent tactic because you kind of knew after a while Southampton were going to be the meanest defence. So get one of those 2. Chelsea defender always got goal threat, even if they didn't keep clean sheets. So get one of those 2, and then you've got 3 spots. You can get budget, and I think, to be honest, I can't see that not working next year. I think Southampton will be a decent defence again. Chelsea always going to be decent defence because of the way Jose likes to play. So I think that's a tactic that's going to work next year as well. It's just hitting those 3 budget defenders.
I think I would say there's also a word of caution with the getting 3 budget defenders is don't have too many 4 million ones. 4 million price defenders at the start of the game are priced 4 million because they're not certain to start. If for a promoted side, if you've got a certain starter, they're probably going to be 4.5 million.
Yeah.
So they're quite hard to find the 4 million ones, and they kind of emerge, I think. And I think if you can possibly start with one, but you're going to have to brace yourself for the fact that they're probably going to be on your bench well, because you're never going to get rid of them, because there's no value, there's no cash-in value for a double transfer, and it's. So I would probably stick to 4.5 million ones, because you can always move down to a 4 million one. Got a couple of questions from Mark here. So you won the Contributors League, Mike HR Brew points out, and Fosi, who you beat in the your own cup competition. He wonders whether this will be your high point of the season, the high point of being a FPL manager, all the years you've been doing it.
Yeah.
And also, Mike asks, did you actually celebrate your Contributors League victory?
No, I nothing like Simon did. I'm sure he was out and about, but and drink. I was I was obviously delighted with my level 42 finish, as I'm referring to here. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think that rank is just about right. I think I could possibly beat that, but it's going to be tough. To finish 42 was obviously brilliant. I wanted to finish the top 100, to finish in the top 50. Yeah, and be on that first page along with Simon. It was great. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to beat that. But I mean, it's enough. Realistically, I can aim to beat 42, so it's enough to keep me interested. That's for sure. I mean, I'm going to obviously keep playing for obvious reasons, but. Yeah, I think that is going to be my hard point. Obviously beating Fosi in the final of my own cup as well. Sorry, Mr. Fosi.
This is an interesting one from Trust John. Have we got any top ideas for doing a standout presentation ceremony?
Sorry, Simon. That stuff's that's coming out on the recording, so we can't hear. What? You're not being muted, Simon. So basically, sorry. That's all right. It's just because if you ask, if Jonty's asking a question, I have to repeat that again. So yeah, just be wary that that's coming out on the mic, Simon, because it's obviously we want to do that. Yeah, do you want to do that one again, Jonty?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, something that Trust John asks what ideas we have. I haven't even thought of this. It's ideas we have for a presentation ceremony for a work mini league.
Yeah, what's he doing then?
I like the idea of it though. He wants to branch out beyond trophies, awards, plus nibbles.
I think he's got it wrapped up there, hasn't he? What else can you do? I mean, trophies and nibbles goes beyond any of my plans. So.
I think we live in an internet age, and most workplaces now have a quite tech savvy. I would say do something like what we're doing now. Have a work YouTube broadcast, particularly if you're a global firm.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's doing something special, I want to be part of that. Maybe we can go along and present the awards for him. Maybe Simon can pop over.
That would be good. That would be good.
I mean, this links to what you were saying, Simon, about people taking this, like, it's just growing in stature in terms of how much people are into it. This guy wants to put on an Oscar ceremony, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at it, it's like, I've never heard of this before, but I think it's an amazing idea, and yeah, I definitely want to be part of it. So yeah,
I want to know what Trust John ends up doing, Jonty. So make sure we keep in touch with him.
Keep tabs on that.
But that's really good. Yeah, go on.
And I was going to say, well, the final question is kind of Withers 2014 asked this question about players for next season. I know it's something that you wanted to ask, kind of to kind of finish off really. So yeah, if you can fire away, you can take the honour for the last question.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what Withers said. I think it's players that you're gonna. We're already thinking about next season, aren't we? So what I want to ask you to is probably 3 players that you know that you're going to sign now, or almost certain to be in your team now, and perhaps one differential. And then is there any player, Simon and Jonty, you're absolutely definitely going to avoid because you've learnt your lesson this year, or just someone you always avoid?
I think I'm going to avoid Jason Puncheon. The reason is...
really?
Because he's in that annoying category where he's 5 million. I suspect he'll be 5.5, even 6 million next season.
Yeah.
Now... It's tricky to, if you're benching that player, he's in that kind of slot that you really want a 4.5 million midfielder to be in, where you're happy to bench, and they're not going to score every time. But for me personally, I keep missing his points. I played him the last game week and missed his points. Every time he scored, he's been on my bench. The only time he came into my team was through the subs, the auto subs. So he's just one of those players. I've had the same problem with Stephen Fletcher before in the past. It's a personal thing. I've always managed to miss their points, or Stephen Fletcher's case, lose millions of pounds in value. So he's a player I'll avoid. But players I would get in, I think I'm going to look at Chelsea. There's a player I never get in the first week. I always wish I did. It's Ivanovic. I don't really care what his price is. There was something, Ruth NZ put a piece up today about kind of a Chelsea review of the season. And he's absolutely bang on when he talks about the Chelsea defence. They're always good for clean sheets. But Ivanovic starts the season on fire. He's done it every season. Yeah, he's going to be a few weeks older at the beginning of next season, but he's not going to be substantially different. I think, I don't think there's anyone, unless they sign some incredibly expensive fullback that's going to challenge him. But yeah, I think one of Hazard or Costa. I think you've got to go for Chelsea. You've got to go for their nailed-on stars. I think, and I'm looking at a nailed-on good promoted team option. So Matt Ritchie at Bournemouth. But for my differential, I think I'm intrigued by Oscar if he stays, because he's never had a pre-season before. He's always been involved with Brazil with some kind of tournament somewhere. He always starts a bit later, takes a while to get going. He's a good player, and I think he could be a differential there.
Simon, what do you reckon? You must have names lined up already, surely.
Well, I think so. Yeah, players that I would. I'm probably the worst person actually to think about for players next season, because I've spent
what do you
so
care?
much time
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, it's all been on this season, but what I have seen, I agree with Oscar actually, and I think that if Oscar is out, if he goes, then Fabregas I think becomes an absolute no-brainer. He really is in there. I think I haven't had a great deal of chance to look at upcoming promoted teams, but I think Bournemouth have got the best defence, and probably there's some value there. But I think actually when you look at some of the teams around Newcastle, Sunderland, West Brom, Leicester, these are all teams that might well, given their position in the league this season, actually provide value going forward. I mean, Newcastle early on were really pretty good for defensive assets, and not necessarily for the first 8 weeks or something, but they I think around about sort of 10 to 15 they scored maybe 6 clean sheets. Bournemouth, good defence. Patrick Bamford, as a Chelsea fan,
because he's going to go on loan, isn't he?
Yeah, it really depends where he goes goes to. I mean, if he if he's at Chelsea, then obviously no. But if he goes to somebody that could do with a striker, perhaps a West Ham, perhaps. I mean, he could really be. He could be the next Austin or the next Lambert, or he's clearly a player that's got some talent.
I think that's a pretty good shout. As a Forest fan, I know about Bamford obviously because you nicked him off us. So yeah, he would definitely. If he goes on loan, he could be the Kane next year, 5 million, and if he gets his break, he can score goals. I mean, I think it's. I mean, Ivanovic is going to be in my team for absolutely sure. Again, like you say, no worries about the price. Hazard, I just can't. Hazard's just going to go on, isn't he? He's only going to get better next year. At the very least, he's going to maintain what he did this year. And then after that, obviously Aguero's difficult. The only thing with Aguero is the injuries. I was surprised you said Costa though, Jonty, because for me Costa is a problem, and I don't know if I want that problem again, because I had him all year, and I never could rest on him. I could never go week to week thinking he's not a concern, or there's a problem with him, or there's doubt about his fitness.
I think I think it's looking back over seasons. Chelsea are a real make or break team for the past few seasons in Fantasy Premier League. It's been their players that have really decided who wins and who loses, I think. And I look back to those seasons when Chelsea start on fire. They're the comfortable league leaders. They're going to have new recruits. They're going to get better as well. And I remember those starts. I remember a particular start when I got Wayne Rooney and Lampard in, and Malouda and Drogba. Do you remember the season where Malouda and Drogba?
Yeah, I remember Malouda very well. Yeah,
they were literally, the pair of them were racking up 10 to 15 points in FPL every week for the first 2 months, and I took a hit my game week 2, and I got both of them in, and I rocketed from 2 millionth to back into respectability. So the reason I say Costa, I would say Hazard or Costa. It depends on price. Hazard's going to be pricey. I think having a Chelsea attacker is key, but having both perhaps. I mean, because if they are going to keep racking those points up, and if they start like that, also if you get Costa in, you can move him out. So you can move him out.
Well, it's easier said than done, as I know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't got Ramsey in there. Because the Ramsey-Sanchez question is going to come up a lot next year, because Sanchez is going to be expensive. Ramsey might well hold his price.
I think Ramsey will hold his price, yeah. I think he will, because he was injured for so long, so his actual overall FPL score wasn't very good. I think the problem with Arsenal midfielders is it depends who's fit. I've very rarely known a time when all of their players, when the last 2 or 3 weeks have been really odd for Arsenal fans in particular, because you've got Wilshere and Walcott fit and ready to go, and then you've got Ramsey, Cazorla, Sanchez, Özil, and Giroud. That all doesn't go into a team, so people are going to miss out. And as happened in game week 38, Ramsey misses out. The thing with Wenger is he's not. I think he does have a special thing this season for Sanchez. He will always play him. But I think Ramsey, he's quite happy to leave out 1 week. And if you've got a £9 million midfielder, that's a tricky one, because you know they're going to come on in the game. So that's the thing with Arsenal. I'm just reserving judgment. I think with Arsenal, I need some evidence of how they start. And I think there's a massive risk of going, I'm going to get Ramsey, I'm going to get Sanchez, I'm going to get Özil. You're going to get the wrong one, because your odds, you've got 1 in 7 shot of getting the good Arsenal player that week. Whereas with Man City, Aguero, Silva, easy. With Chelsea, Costa, Hazard, easy. You limit it down.
So, I mean, my player that I'm not going to go near, there's a couple. I did get Jovetic in, and I captained him in game week 3. Unbelievable. I had to remind myself of that. Yeah. Because they were playing Stoke at home, I think, and I captained Jovetic because he had a good pre-season, and they lost 1-0 to Stoke at home. So I'm just going to try and avoid City attackers, which would be Zeko, Bonnie maybe. Bonnie could be one that I'd get tempted by, which is always dodgy because they always revert to 4-4-1-1. So I don't know. And then the other player that I probably will avoid, Lukaku, because I think he's such an erratic player. He promises so much. This year, I think he's been one of the massive disappointments. He's done okay. He's been respectable. He kind of simmered along, but he should have done so much better, shouldn't he? I mean, he's a player who promises a lot.
And Everton have usually been quite a good source of points, particularly with defenders. Baines still had an alright season, but not up to his usual standards. I'd like to. Same when I talk about Arsenal. I can't commit to getting a particular Arsenal player. I want evidence, and maybe after 2 or 3 weeks. Same with Everton. I want to see how they go. I agree with you with Lukaku. He's just too up and down. The team that I'm most interested in is Manchester United. For the last 2 seasons, they've been pretty poor as a source of fantasy points, particularly in midfield. Now, Depay is joining them. Rumours of a striker. I saw talk of Benzema going there. I mean, you're going to get all sorts of speculation going on. Loads of strikers linked with them, but I'd be very interested to see if they get a striker who I think is going to play, and also a striker that can play in a variety of positions in the front 3. I think that type of player is one I'm interested to look at. But once again, I'm going to need some evidence. I'm not going to go straight in with a Depay or Rooney or Mata. I need 2 or 3 weeks on that one, and I'm happy to miss out on a week or two's points.
Simon, is there anyone you want to avoid next year? I mean, everyone's been good to you this season, haven't they?
Well, that's the thing, actually. I mean, like, so go back a little bit, like talking about transfers and things. The funny thing that happens to you when you're doing well about midway through the season is that you actually need transfers less than you would need before, and so there were so many there were in a huge amount of times where I really struggled to make a transfer each week. And I suppose it makes sense that if you're doing well, then you probably got the good players, and so therefore, it's going to be tough to think of an area to improve here. But there were a lot of weeks. There were a few weeks where I thought about just completely sacrificing the transfer altogether. It was. It's a really weird one.
I did that one time, and Granville never let me off. He ribbed me for weeks about that.
Really?
It's exactly the same, because when you bank your transfer and you've got two, you kind of felt, well, I've got to use one of them because I've got two. And you did that a few times, didn't you, where you had two transfers? So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Well, you're always 3 transfers away from a perfect team. That's the thing. You're never 2 transfers away from it. You're always 3 transfers away from it. So. That was the case throughout, but I mean, looking forward to next season, I suppose, with potential players. I think Rooney is going to be really underrated. I think if United do not sign a all-out striker and Rooney gets to play in his preferred position, whether it be up front or number 10, he could be really one to watch. I think Mata as well is one. Mata, I think, is an absolutely fantastic player for fantasy football, and if he's nailed on, then he would be very, very high on my selections for next season. Absolutely.
Well, look out for that. Well, Simon, I want to thank you for coming on the Scoutcast and for waking up at 4:30 to talk to us for this hour and a quarter. It's been absolutely brilliant to have you on again. I've got to say, worthy champion. I mean, congratulations to all the chasing pack. You had a brilliant season, but I think Jonty, you'll agree, Simon deserved it in the end to walk away with a crown, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's been since game week 24, number 1. And you just and the thing is, people on Fantasy Football Scout, what they love is play your game, play your own game. Don't listen to anyone. Just play. And you played your own game, which was a very sensible game, and you were keeping an eye on the trends like prices, and it was very, very deserved.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you again, Simon, and also it's going to be a pleasure next season to give you a platform to pass some of that sage-like advice that you've learned this season over to the community, which is going to be great for everyone on the site to see you on there and giving advice, knowing that you can relax in a season. It's going to feel strange for you. I know Tom felt strange. So, are you looking forward to that? Are you looking forward to playing just for fun now?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's going to be a sense, like I said. I mentioned about the guy. Did I mention it on air about the guy that got in touch with me about Mane? And,
she did.
So there's always that sense that you're like, okay, I'm not 100% confident in everything that I say, but what I really do want to do is say, after having to kind of forcibly remove myself from the community for maybe 3 or 4 months, to be able to go back in and actually share what I've experienced and the lessons that I've learned and what people make of that. They will, and hopefully it will help people improve their teams, improve their campaigns going forward.
I'm sure it will, Simon.
Yeah.
We look forward to that. We'll certainly get some articles from you and certainly get you on the Scoutcast again. We've got to get you and Tom together and cross the beams. And maybe this time we can get Granville on with you just to make sure that you aren't Granville in disguise pretending you're in Singapore, which I'm sure that isn't the case. Again, go and have a lie down now, Simon. Thanks so much for joining us and congratulations again. The FBL champion, everyone, Simon March. It's a good night for me.
Good night from me.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.